Good evening, welcome to Simpson at 8 and our first show for 2019. This evening we talk to a strong woman who in a short period of time has made a big impact on the political scene and has also caused some controversy along the way. We welcome in the studio tonight the opposition whip and Member of Parliament for the Social Democratic Liberal Party, Honorable LYNDA Tabuya. Thank you for joining me on the show.
Bulavinaka, namaste and foexia.
Thank you. Now let's start from the beginning. And discuss your political journey. First of all, why did you get into politics? What inspired you?
Well, it's certainly not for the money. We are, probably by the end of this year, you're getting paid pretty much similar to, head of department in a high school.
Right.
But, I have greatest respect for teachers. I believe they should be paid way more for the amount of time they spend without children, more than any of us parents.
And the pressures they endure.
Of course, but, it's quite simple, with the public scrutiny and, whatever we subject ourselves to. I really believe that I can make Fiji a better place. And, it started off as a child, growing up in poverty and seeing the effects of poverty firsthand. I've always had the dream of making a difference. I didn't know how exactly I would achieve that, but I knew there was a place where I could be useful. And so my earliest recollection of women in leadership was the Hibiscus Festival. And, myself and all my family.
Which you participated in
Yes, I
later,
did. Yes, I did. And, me and my cousins, my girl cousins, we would follow the Hibiscus Festival every year. That was like an outing for us as kids to go to the Hibiscus Festival and watch these women, dressed up and in their costumes and parade. While many were fascinated and, enjoyed that, I was more interested and fixed on these women because they were able to speak in public and articulate themselves. And so that was.
But politics is not. Is much more, some would say, harsher and tougher. That's what you're subjected to.
Yes.
In terms of the Hibiscus Festival, there is also that scrutiny.
Yes.
But politics, it can get very nasty.
No, certainly. I mean, and just that for me, in terms of focusing on these women and being able to have a platform where they could speak out to the public, no other opportunity would anyone, including women at that time, to speak to the public and address the entire nation on something that they felt passionately about. And being in politics, you've got to know who you are. You've got to know what you stand for. And so despite what comes that could be negative, you've got to be focused on what your goal is.
Right.
And that's the most important thing for me.
So to make a difference.
Yes.
That's what it's. And let's now look at your political journey. You helped form a new party in 2014, the People's Democratic Party.
Yes.
You're now with SODELPA. Why didn't you join SODELPA then, in 2014? Because they were there at that time.
Yes, I agree. Yes, in 2014 was actually a group of us that were friends of mine that we have over the years developed a bond. And for me, I've always seen myself as a union, a labor person, and those where my ideologies lie. I like to fight for workers and fight for, the common man in terms of their interests and fight for our people. And so PDP was certainly more appealing to me because of the platform that
rather than SODELPA at that time.
At the time, yes. I mean, I knew what SODELPA stood for. It wasn't a huge emphasis on workers' rights as it was for the PDP, and I respected that they had their own mandate.
Right, so your focus then was on workers. You stood for the PDP, won 1,375 votes.
Yes, I did, yes.
In 2014, then left to join SODELPA in 2017.
Actually, we brought PDP into SODELPA.
You brought PDP into SODELPA, so we'll get that clarification.
Yes.
Now, why didn't you keep PDP going?
Well, because we...
Because if I can say, because like Aman Ravindra Singh,
yes,
he stated, mourning the death of PDP, leadership sold out the workers,
yes,
and killed the party. It was formed in 2013 with a lot of promise and heart, but due to poor leadership, things fell apart. And when you say now that you brought PDP into SODELPA.
Yes.
One of the PDP board members, Veronica Toms, at the time disputed your assertion, saying that the party management had not agreed to go and join SODELPA.
Yes, a couple of things I want to clarify. In fact, Aman Ravindra Singh left PDP before we signed the Memorandum of Understanding. So he had left PDP to go to Fiji Labour Party.
Before you made your move?
Yes, before we made a decision as a board to make our moves, he was already out the door. So, and also for Veronica Toms, she was not a member of the board at the time. And I can, that's the information that I know. And as the leader of the party at the time, she was no longer a board member at the time. So anyway, for the decision for PDP to come into SODELPA was really about the election system that we were dealing with. We learned our lesson from 2014 that the current election system disadvantages smaller parties, and having to meet a very high percent of threshold, 5%, for a 51-member parliament. You have other countries in the world where they have 200 plus seats, but it's only very low, 2% threshold. This is very high for Fiji, so we're having to deal with that. And so we had our fight, and we learned from 2014. And it was the mandate for me from the board to explore options with other political parties as the leader, see if we could work together and unite. And of course, as part of that was to bring our fight into the
And in some ways, dealing with the political reality that PDP on its own would not be able to meet that 5%
we knew our chances
threshold.
and what we were fighting against.
Okay, then, so in 2017, I just wanted to clarify some of things because a lot of issues. You stated that you remained the deputy leader of PDP and, according to media reports, denied joining SODELPA, but the very next day you were announced as one of SODELPA's candidates. What happened there? Were you still trying to make up your mind about joining it, or were you still negotiating?
We were certainly still negotiating, and look, the doors were open to negotiate with any of the parties, SODELPA included, NFP included. In the Fiji Labour Party, we almost got into a deal ourselves, so it was not just SODELPA. And when the board,
Fiji First.
When the board made the decision, no, not Fiji First. Yeah, when the board made the decision to join SODELPA, I was right there at the forefront, and it was certainly very a short span of time to make the decision. So I had the responsibility of my party as PDP to bring PDP in together, and not just for my own.
And eventually, it was just you and Vijay, if I recall correctly.
Yes, the door was open for any of PDP to apply for a ticket in SODELPA. But we have these restrictions on unionists to participate in politics. And so a lot of our members and those that could have stood for elections have certainly found themselves a bit more useful in the union space, fighting for that rather than joining.
Because it did look rushed that joining SODELPA. I mean, you said you were negotiating, because in the beginning it was problematic right from the start, and not everybody in SODELPA was thrilled, as we found out. But initially it contravened Section 15 of the Political Parties Decree. How so? That you can't be an office holder of more than one party, and needed to resign first from the previous party and written notice, if you recall.
Yes, no, there was no contravention. Vijay Singh, they thought at the time, was a member of both parties, but he hadn't become a member of SODELPA yet. And so, that was sorted out. So there was never a charge or never anything.
So it wasn't just a rushed decision to run in without looking
Certainly not. Certainly not a rushed decision. It was a decision that weighed very heavily on us as PDP.
And well deliberated, you would argue. Now, you signed an MOU.
Yes.
With Rambuka, and after the special general meeting in December. And I'd like to elaborate, and you can correct me, because there's a lot of different versions of that. The MOU specified that PDP will not field any candidates but work with SODELPA, and required SODELPA to take on PDP's top 4 policies.
Yes.
Is that correct? And the 4 policies, according from an interview you made, was the minimum wage, removal of short-term contracts for civil servants, return of collective bargaining rights, and review of labor laws.
Yes.
So that was what the conditions were for you to join SODELPA?
Correct, yes.
Okay. So let's move on. You came into the party. What was it like joining SODELPA the first time? Meaning coming from a different party, Workers' Party, to
Of
to a
course.
party that some would say were more conservative, more traditional values.
Okay, you know, I knew I had a lot to learn coming into SODELPA. I had a lot of listening to do, and I did just that. I, you know, was able to learn from those that were in there. You know, there's certainly different ideologies, you know, to myself, to mine, in the party, but I felt we were pretty representative of the people of this country, and it certainly resulted in SODELPA winning 6 more seats in the elections. We were really the only winners.
So you felt you opened up
Yes.
the tent and brought in new people into SODELPA?
Certainly the ideology of more of a modern, moderate stance, which appealed to, you know, to many people, including everyone that voted for me. You know, that was PDP. What PDP was, you know, apart from the workers' platform, for myself, it was also bringing in that ideology, which I understand there's always going to be teething problems when two people get married. It's just like a marriage. You know, they get to know each other, and then you get to work it out. And we worked it out.
Well, it seems you're still working some things out, which we will get into later.
Sure.
Let's move to your campaign. It was considered quite unique, very successful. You had built a lot of support with your work in the striking ATS workers. You strongly, it seems, targeted youth from urban settlements. You had your songs, your strong social media presence. How would you characterize your campaign message and your campaign in general?
Generally, it was really a holistic approach and looking at cost-effective ways to run a campaign. You know, we were never going to compete with, you know, with the government, with their budget that they had. And so I had to work smart, work differently. And I believe you know, the way that we ran our campaign, you know, it was, you choose between, you have a Talanoa session in a hall and you spend money for grog or whatever it is, you know, $200, versus running a volleyball tournament and bringing youth together. And really, my goal was to help youth to register for the elections. And the elections office were present at most of my volleyball tournaments. And so they were very happy to support that, knowing, and we registered hundreds of youth as a result, because this is the need for our young people to participate in the process and to know what you know, what they can fight for and what they can stand for. And that was my campaign message, really, was to women and youth, but really the whole nation, because the youth are our future, and if they don't participate now, then the future is in trouble.
Right. To talk more about the future and what she intends to do, you're watching Simpson at 8. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back. You're watching Simpson at 8. We're with Opposition Whip and SODELPA MP, Honorable LYNDA Tabuya. Now, 8,795 votes, second only to SODELPA Party Leader Sitveni Rambuka, and overall 5th behind Bainimarama, Rambuka, Syed Qayyum, and Biman Prasad. So the party leaders, then you. That's quite an achievement. So you also the woman with the highest number of votes. So what do you put your political success down to in these numbers?
Firstly, I had a great team, and they were a team of all youth, young people. I was open to their ideas. I was open to what their hand was on the beat and what was current, and what they knew the youth issues were. And that was our messaging, was we were going to target our youth. And certainly with youth, you know, they are influenced a lot by their parents, by what they see and hear around them. But we needed to target them directly, to speak to them directly in their language and in what they could understand. And so it was important, and we found the platform of sports was what interested them to bring them together.
Because there was a lot of criticism, you know,
Yes.
and a lot of some of your opponents criticized your volleyball politics and
Yes.
things, but it worked.
Yes, it did. And, you know, it was, again, for two reasons: to bring our young people together. And, you know, in any of my volleyball tournaments, I didn't talk politics. I actually got to know these young people, and I still do today, and they still continue to be supportive on the community level, because I want to continue that community work. I've always supported volleyball. I think volleyball is a good platform to mobilize our youth, especially Tauke youth. Sports in general is a great platform to mobilize our youth, and it should be supported more in our policies, in our national policies for sport. And the other platform that we looked at was the social media and reaching to our people generally. 80% of our people are on Facebook.
Right.
And I think this was certainly still understated as the platform to use to reach our people.
Yeah. So that came across as pretty successful.
Yes, that was why we were using the social
media. Now,
media.
while successful, one of the criticisms that came through was that you was going out on your own and doing your own thing,
yes,
and not that you were not getting approvals and authorizations by the General Secretary with regards your campaign messages and materials, and that there was lack of uniformity within SODELPA. Would that be correct?
Well, look, it worked. The greatest success is to just look at results. And I delivered with the results. And so it is something that we as a party should reflect on and perhaps see if there are ways that and methods that I had used in my campaign that could improve the overall running of the campaign for SODELPA.
Was there issues within SODELPA with some of the style and some of the ways you went around with your campaign?
Not at all during the elections. I mean, we were, our party, our leader is trusting and also gave us that freedom to be able to run our platforms, and different candidates ran their different platforms. Certainly different messages, but they were all the similar ideologies to appeal to different sections of society, and my target was certainly youth. Yes.
Because one criticism, and I think I also have that was a lack of uniformity in message at times within SODELPA during the elections. There was some sense also that on some issues not enough groundwork or background research was done. For instance, on the issue of the minimum wage. Depending on which SODELPA MP you spoke to, there was a variation of answers from members, including yourself, of how he was going to be paid for, different during interviews. In hindsight, could the party have done better in explaining your policies and getting the numbers down? Because sometimes one would argue you got caught out in explaining the policy that you were trying to implement.
And so look, Fiji First, as well as SODELPA, have lessons to learn from these elections in terms of their messaging. Fiji First has lost 6 seats. They have their own lessons to learn, and so do we. And so that is always room for improvement moving forward. And for SODELPA, if it's about winning the elections, it's certainly a lot of room to improve. Now, with the messaging, we ran a different campaign from Fiji First. Fiji First ran a uniform campaign in terms of their messaging. We ran messages, though different, were to appeal to different sections of the community. So we focused on different sections of the community.
Even though it would contradict each other in some cases?
Well, I mean, I spoke about the $4 minimum wage, and that was something that I championed. And, I had explained how that would be taken care of. And it was a commitment that SODELPA had made to implement this right away by law if we were to come into Parliament, into government. And so there were perhaps...
Even if you were struggling to explain how it would be paid for?
Well, I said that, if it is a matter of priority, then a government will make it happen. A responsible government will make it happen for our people.
With the political will, if they have the political will.
If they have the political will, it will happen.
So, noting the lessons, what are some things you would consider, you want the party to consider doing differently in 2020?
In 2022, yes.
2022, sorry.
Yes, of course. We have yet to sit together to do a review of, the lessons that we have need to learn. I think certainly for me, I think there needs to be more funds raised to run an effective campaign. Campaign is all about funds. It really is about that. And I think a lot of us candidates were disadvantaged with not having sufficient funding.
The resources to...
Yes, the resources to go out and reach all our people, certainly to use the media and to be able to travel out, during this time. It is a huge lesson that we can learn to start preparing better financially for the next campaign. Another one is really about the way that we are, as you said, the way that we're doing our messaging is we could certainly communicate better what is happening with all the different candidates. The messaging is fine, it appeals to different sections of the community, but the uniformity in terms of communicating better and knowing what the other person is saying.
Because on some of the issues, some of the candidates were saying, the common name should be taken out. Fijians should be,
Yes.
while some candidates is no, there's no problem with the common name. There were some issues on the Christian state.
Yes.
Some of those issues, I thought the messaging needed to be clear.
Yes, and it
in
was
terms
clear. It was clear for me. For me, it was most important what our leader was, was stating, and certainly a lesson for candidates to be able to follow the leader and to be able to stay consistent with that
to
message.
project forward. Let's discuss the post-2018 elections. You won, fifth highest, as I said, fifth highest number, second in SEDALPA. You were given significant responsibilities in the new parliament. Opposition whip, with Asiru Nrondo as your assistant, opposition spokesperson on local government housing environment, opposition assistant spokesperson on labour and industrial relation, opposition assistant shadow spokesperson for the AG and Ministry of Justice. That's quite a lot for a new member of parliament. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a new MP come in and become the opposition whip. So a lot of responsibilities. How do you see those responsibilities in your government and the role that you'll play in that with those portfolios that you've been given?
Well, with an opportunity comes also the ability to learn. And so I'm learning on the job in terms of being a whip and to be effective at it. I do certainly have a lot of help from the members of parliament who've been there before, and I'm grateful for that. As the whip, really, that is what the role is. It's really to have our members of parliament more effective. It is to be communicating between parliament and the opposition office, and certainly communicating with government on issues that we need to sort together. But more importantly, with the work that I do, I'm very committed to working with the government on having issues resolved and having real results with what we need to do to serve our people. As the Shadow Minister for Housing, we have a huge housing problem in this country.
Which you raised in your maiden speech.
Yes, yes.
Which I'll get to. Before you get to that, and I'll digress a bit from the issues. You generated a lot of controversy with the choice of dress that you wore into Parliament. And it seems clear now that a lot of that criticism came from within your own party.
Yes.
Saying you are not dressed appropriately in keeping with the conservative principles of the party. Was there a message in the dress?
I mean, certainly white, as is historically known, has been won by women in solidarity for the fight that women carried out in the middle of the last century to fight for women's rights and what we have achieved today. So white was in solidarity with that. The style of the dress, I was comfortable in it. It met the parliamentary dress code, certainly reflective of the modern woman in today's society. And so, yes, I realize that I have challenged the conservative ideologies within the party. But this is a lesson to be learned from here, is that SEDALPA, now that we have the conservative and modern, is more representative of our people, and that traditional and modern can coexist together. And because I know where
and it seems that
the traditional
exists,
setting
and it
is,
seems
yes.
that given that criticism of your dress, it seems that clash exists at the moment within SEDALPA.
It does, Stanley, and it is my responsibility, I see, to educate and to be able to understand what their point of view is and what they are trying to, to put forward in the criticisms. And I take it on board, and it's just a matter of communication and coming up with a way to move forward together.
It was your right to wear as you please, but do you regret that the dress became the focus of the attention leading up to your maiden speech?
No, I don't have any regrets with the decision I've made. I mean, that morning, when my daughter, looked at me, and she represents, she's 19, she represents the young people, and she looked at me and she said, "Mama, that's appropriate for Parliament, and it's what I'd
you look
like
great.
to wear. And my mum too, she said after that to say, you know, you look wonderful, Luvengu, it was fine, it was appropriate. So here are two women in my life that I really look up to and are my role models. And so it mattered to me what they thought, my mum and my daughter, and you know, I don't regret it.
You're comfortable with it. Now let's move to your maiden speech, because we obviously cannot go through all of it.
Sure.
But given the campaign and the, you know, it was fiercely competed, and the build-up to your speech, many expected a full frontal assault by LYNDA Tabuya on the Fiji First government and the policies, and to contrast how different you were. Instead, they saw a much more moderate speech that called for the parties to work together. Some were disappointed. Some said it fell flat. But how did you feel about the speech? And why did you decide at that last moment to change it and make it what it was?
Well, I was actually guided by my conscience and, you know, needing to be true to myself. And that was my message during the campaign. You know, as you would have seen through my campaign, I was not in personal attack mode, as I was really appealing to people to work together and to be united. And if we don't promote the message of unity in our community and
But you
amongst our
strongly
people,
disagreed with Fiji First's policies and contrasted what you stood for and what they stood for.
well, there were at times where, you know, I disagreed, but I was always open to working together. And that's what I brought into, you know, into Parliament with it. I mean, you know, I supported and continue to support the unions in their need to work with government in the tripartite forum. That was a falling out too before the elections, which is the right of the unions to do so. But I hope to play that role to you know, to bring them back to the table. Because of that relationship I have with the unions. Now, back to the maiden speech, you know, all week, and, you know, when you have the, you know, maybe for better or worse, when you are put right at the end, and I was right on Friday, you know, you've had the opportunity to sit in there and listen to others present their speeches, and, you know, with great respect. I just felt at that moment when that morning when I changed my speech, that I needed to be true to myself, that I needed to, you know, to help foster unity amongst our people, and that needs to start in the highest house.
Try to take a new path?
Yes, and, you know, and our leader of opposition, Rumbuka, had the same message. And so I was guided by him. He had set the tone for how I felt anyway. He said we need to work together in bipartisanship. And I said I'd take it a step further to actually work together for real results. And so it was just an extension of that, and and I still hold true to that.
A lot of politicians say that, you know, it's a good thing, oh, we'll need to work together. But actually working together doesn't seem to happen. You know, a lot of it's just talk. How do you intend to take that talk and actually make it something concrete that you will work with? I mean, you stated in your speech that you look forward to working with Pramila Kumar for affordable, low-cost housing. And working with Labour Industrial Relations Minister Bala to achieve the increase in minimum wage and restoring faith in the tripartite forum.
Yes.
With so with this, just for two.
Yes, well, with the housing issue, you know, Fiji has been known to work on the Singapore model. You know, we certainly look up to that country. And, you know, the Prime Minister of Singapore was just recently interviewed on Hard Talk. And, you know, he was asked that question, you know, what is the single most attribute that you can, you know, key factor that you can attribute the success of Singapore? And, you know, you expect him to say, you know, the economy or IT or all of that. And he said housing. Now, we have a huge housing problem in this country. We have 15,000 people waiting on the housing authority list to get housing, and that doesn't even account for those that haven't applied. And you have 50,000 people living in squatters.
It's a big issue.
It's almost a tenth of our population. It's a huge issue.
So what is one of the solutions you'll be looking to work with government on?
Well, I have some ideas that I'd like to work with Pramila, and I still will continue to reach out to her as the Honourable Minister to, look at these, these ideas about affordable housing. Certainly one of them that I gave the idea was to explore, building out in the Suvandeumba corridor. You know, Wainandoi and all this as Navua, where we could we could build satellite towns and move our people out that way. They need affordable housing, they need jobs, so we can create these towns where we can have both jobs and homes. Sustainable, that they have electricity and water, you've got a bank, a supermarket, really like little satellite towns with thousands of people living around it. So we need to be able to help our people with not just housing, but with that, value adding is employment and the ability to have a decent standard of living.
Correct.
In that. So I look forward to working with the minister, hopefully, and implement some of these ideas that I have. Yes.
Decisions. And we'll be watching that.
Yes.
We're with LYNDA Tabuya, Opposition Whip. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back. You're watching Simpson at 8. We're with the Honorable LYNDA Tabuya. Now, so maiden speech, which we discussed earlier, essentially what was the overall message and what was the feedback that you received?
The overall message is unity. We need to unite our country. We've been polarized for too long, and there is a responsibility for those that represent our people in the highest house in the land to work together for the good of our people. And that was the message in my speech. The feedback was overwhelming when I posted it on social media, and our people thanking me and also appreciative of the message of unity that and to stand down on personal attacks but focus more on serving our people.
What was the response from the government side in your attempt to reach out? Did they say yes, we'll work together?
Well, they didn't say no, so that's a good start. And even right after when we had our our parliamentary workshops, meeting with the honourable ministers and members, I certainly found that they were more open and friendly, to engage in conversation about issues that affect our people.
So let's move on. The recently highly depublicized front pages for days dispute between you and Honorable Mbulitavu within the SODELPA party.
Yes.
How, in essence, how and why did that come about? What essentially caused that to happen? That email that was sent.
So, I preface my discussion to state that it has been resolved between us. The way that we operate in SODELPA that I enjoy is that we are able to voice our opinions. It's quite democratic. Our leader encourages that, and so the exchange of emails was based on certain opinions and the different ideologies that exist within the party that we are confronted with. So it was at the end of the day, it was certainly a healthy exercise of revealing that we have different ideologies that we need to reconcile.
Yes, it's been resolved, as you say, and in the but it was quite personal, quite harsh. Some of it, some people say it shouldn't go, it can't go unchallenged. So with some of the things, I mean, dress to kill technique. There were some of the words there that was jarring even from people who followed politics in this country for a long time. Is this comeback again to the issue between the old guard, so to speak, and the modern progressive wing of the party that some say you represent?
Yes, well, I mean, it's certainly not old as in age. We have modern, older, elderly people within the party, which is good. Yes, it does address that, and something that we worked on to reconcile and continue to work on, that we need to reconcile. And it's really based on ideologies. It's, though the words seem personal, it's politics. And communication is key. I just had to look through that and see, well, what are we addressing here? And for me, this is a different ideology that I need to also help to reconcile with the way that I feel and think that is representative to of our people, to reconcile the two and to feel. But it was very encouraging for me that at the end of the day, it is representative of our people and what we continue to battle every day is the traditional and modern way of living, which can really exist together. And so that's, for me, that
Despite
was
the
encouraging.
tensions,
Yes.
there are clear tensions that are now, but one explicit thing that came out was that the way you were going to the media, the way they were running, some of the messages and things that you're coming out. Did you see that as an attempt to rein you in, to cut you down to size, to muzzle you, so to speak?
Of course, those thoughts crossed my mind, but within politics, something that's aired out, for me, is much better than someone just holding it in and never expressing their opinion.
Because it seemed to say that you're going out, you're not seeking approval of the caucus, basically stating that you're, in some ways, the message that you're not a disciplined party person. And another of the message was putting you and PDP interests above SODELPA's interests.
Yes, look, PDP has deregistered.
Right.
And also, coming into SODELPA with the MOU, we are no longer PDP, we are SODELPA. And so, yes, again, there were a lot of attacks, a lot of things said, but democracy is well and alive, and I'm really happy about that. I'm actually encouraged. I'd rather someone tell me how they feel than not at all. And in politics, you've got to be able to communicate, and there's going to be those moments. Now, if we muzzle people and we stop them from saying what they want to say, then, the last time I checked, that was called a dictatorship.
Right.
So we've got to get away from that and really practice democracy within SODELPA.
Were you surprised when it came out that it was leaked to the media? Something that's happening regularly from within SODELPA?
Yes, I was visited at home on a Sunday afternoon about this, and I was wrecking my brain. What is this about? And I had no preparation. I didn't even know. So yes, I was.
Because even in some circles they're saying LYNDA was the one that leaked the letter.
Well, of course. This is going to be the kind of suspicion that goes around when things are leaked to the media. It's going to happen. And, the way that they analyze what was written, the attacks from my colleague, Honorable LYNDA Tabuya, can be seen as, on me, can be seen as me being defenseless, as me not being able to stand up for myself. And so, the court of public opinion jumped on that to defend me. But, I'm very grateful for that, but that was not the point of the discussion we had. It was really about being able to air our differences. The fact that it went to the media is most unfortunate, but it's out there.
It was good to be aired out and
Certainly,
clarified.
yes.
Just another perspective. Are there also suspicions of your intentions and ambitions within the party to become party leader in 2020 when that comes up?
Look, for me, I believe, a leader, you don't need a title or position to be a leader. You can be effective in whatever role you're in. If it's the will of the board, if it's the will of the party, then, I need to stand ready. But right now I'm focused on doing the work and really bringing out results and to help our people.
So you are open to standing for party leader in 2020 if it comes up?
I think everyone should be in our party. That's very important. If you feel you can do the job and there's confidence in you from the party, then you should. Yes.
Yeah. So as I said, as you've said, it's been resolved.
Yes.
And I just want to check: is it really been resolved, or has it been just swept under the carpet for now to get the party together leading into February parliamentary sitting?
Oh, we had a meeting with our leader. He called us in to meet with us to discuss this and to resolve it. And it resulted, of course, in his press release to state that it has been resolved. So, that this is good. It is good, it's democratic, but it's also a good process to follow where our leader is in charge.
So you're saying it was healthy for the party?
Yes.
Eventually. So all that aside, now targeting 2019, February is the next parliamentary sitting.
Yes.
What are your targets for that?
Well, the party as a whole, as you know, there are 3 bills before the House, and I spoke about that a bit on my Parliament TV video online. So we have the Code of Conduct Bill, which is, going around the country. They're getting consultations on it. The Adoption Bill had already been consulted on, and also the Registration of Sexual Offenders Bill. And so the Standing Committee on Law and Justice is going around the country consulting our people, as it should. For me, I'm really focused on looking at the standing orders of Parliament. And the standing orders are the rules that govern the order of business in Parliament. And as a member of the Standing Orders Committee, I've got to look at the way that Parliament is conducted and how we can achieve a better balance in the House. And there are certainly things, for example, right now the government gets 4 days in the week to put forward their motions and proposals, and opposition only gets half a day on Friday. 9 to 12:30 is a very short time.
Right.
And
so that's some of the things you'll be looking to.
Yes, we need more time. The opposition size has increased, and we represent half of the country. Then there needs to hope for a consideration from the government that they would give us more time in Parliament. And there are certainly other changes that we're looking at, like Standing Order 51, which allows for fast tracking of bills. Fast tracking needs to be an extenuating circumstances, special circumstances
Very
to do
special
so.
too.
Yes, but this is being used too regularly now, and we're concerned with that. We're concerned
So
with
making
that.
more time to pass bills, deliberate, and then
Yes,
come
because
to
the most important thing is really not so much the deliberation of Parliament members only, but the public participation. We need our public to be consulted. We need our citizens to be consulted and to participate in the process more. And that's what we're looking at, and hopefully will be the changes that we will address in the House.
Now, Linda, you're a mother of 6.
Yes.
And for many women, a lot has been said about balancing their family and their career.
Yes.
You are also a lawyer and a member of Parliament. How have you balanced your different roles as a mother, as a lawyer, and as now a member of Parliament to be the successful person that?
Yes, firstly I want to acknowledge that it is really the things that drive me. My family, my background, and certainly having these children from the age of 19 to 1.5 years. And really what's important for any person and any woman is to have a good foundation, and something that drives you, and also that you can turn to for your times of peace, where you can get away. And for me, it's really my children, and I need to get away from everything. I just spend time with them, and it helps me to switch off. So it's important to manage the stress that you deal with. And it's very unfortunate that we have the highest rate of diabetes or any related NCD-related diseases in the world, and this is caused. A lot of it's caused by stress. We're not managing our stress well, and I think we as women, especially, even more so with all of the juggling we need to do. So it's very important that we manage stress and that we are able to ask for help when we need it, and I certainly do that. We can't be superwoman and handle everything. So it's a matter of really balance. Yes. While you're balancing that, you have to ensure that in balancing that, you have balance in your own life, that you don't neglect yourself, that you do look after yourself too.
Finally, Linda, in your maiden speech, you stated about growing up and the challenges you faced. Quote, you said, "I remember those times of hunger, loneliness, contention, trauma, bullying, violence, and abuse.
Yes.
Through it all, my desire to escape the poverty of my youth fueled my dreams and aspirations." There are many young people today, some who may be watching, that going through similar struggles that you faced in your youth. To end, what is your message to these people?
Never give up. Never give up, no matter what challenges you face. Go through them, but always keep your mind and your focus on your goal, and just go for it. Nike, just do it.
Just do it.
Yes.
Honorable Linda Tabuya, thank you for joining me on Simpson at 8.
Thank you so much, Stanley.
That was Simpson at 8 for the evening. We hope you enjoyed the show. Nimi Lot and Nesor Tabuya is next with Talimang Mangi. Join us again next Sunday at the same time. Good night.